Today's episode was sponsored by Chris from Done to Death. So thank you so much, Chris, and let's go ahead and get this bad boy up on the wall, shall we? Yeah. So here it is up on the wall, somewhere around like here, I'd say. Hopefully you can see it. I need to stop turning because when I do, my mic shifts and it sounds silly. But I promise it's there. I asked Chris from Done to Death if he had any special messages he wanted me to say, and he did, so I'm just going to read them off my phone so I don't miss a word. He asked me to say that Done to Death is a band, and you can listen to them on Spotify, Tidal, and all other typical music listening places. So it's his band. That's why he's Chris from Done to Death, if that wasn't clear. And yeah, Chris sent me a link to their music, and I'm not just saying this because he's sponsoring me. I actually really like it a lot, and I think a lot of you guys watching will too. But you know, rather than taking my word for it, why not just listen for yourself? I've included a link in the description below, so just go check it out because it won't cost you anything, and who knows, you might have just found your new favorite band. So thank you so much to Chris and everyone else in Done to Death, and with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start the episode. Season's greetings, nitwits, and welcome to Knitting Time with Willie. I'm your host, Willie Muse, joined as always by my co-host, Nitcolis. And as many of you know, I've been doing the Christian thing a lot recently. The last few videos I've made have all been about Christian movies, and the next few I make will probably also all be about Christian movies. And honestly, that works out great because we're entering the time of year when a lot of other people start doing the Christian thing too. Provided this video doesn't get copyright claimed. Depending on my luck, there's a chance that we're now leaving the time of year when people start doing the Christian thing, but hopefully that's not the case. Not only is Christmas a Christian holiday, but there are also hundreds of movies about it produced each year, so I kind of assumed that finding a good Christian Christmas movie to talk about would be a breeze. Unfortunately, I assumed wrong. I truly have never had a harder time trying to find a movie to talk about for a video, because as it turns out, Christian Christmas movies suck ass. My initial plan was to discuss a movie from a TV network called Great American Family, which is kind of positioning itself like the more conservative version of the Hallmark Channel. I first heard about them earlier this year when a story came out that Candace Cameron Bure was going to stop working with the latter in favor of the former because, according to her, Great American Family will, quote, keep traditional marriage at the core. And hearing that, all I could think was two things. One, that's disgusting. And two, I need to watch everything they've ever made immediately. So I did, and as it turns out, it's a lot less interesting in practice than in concept. They're basically just slightly more boring versions of Hallmark movies. Despite being about a Christian holiday and targeted at Christian audiences, most of them were weirdly secular. I watched a bunch, and I only managed to find one that had even a trace of the sort of kooky zealotry that I look for when I'm making a video. It was called A Christmas ... present. And it starred the aforementioned Candace Cameron Bure as a mother trying to bring her family closer during the holidays. And I actually did get like 5 pages into writing a script about it, but then I realized that the script was bad because the movie was really boring, so I scrapped it. There honestly just wasn't a lot there to discuss. It was one of those movies that was just competent enough that it ended up being a lot worse than if it was just straight up terrible. And then on top of that, it was also weirdly sad. It's all about Candace Cameron's family going to be with her brother after his wife dies, and then that causes her to reflect on her own failing marriage. At Christmas. And that's a weird thing that I learned about Christian Christmas movies making this video. The only ones that are religious in any noticeable way are also depressing as shit. A family bands together to give an emotional farewell to their young son who has cancer. A once devout Christian who stopped believing in God after her husband tragically died despite her prayers. A man has everything until a Christmas tragedy leaves him lonely and empty. Seeing as I'm trying to make humorous videos on here, these are not the sorts of plots I tend to gravitate towards, and that's unfortunate because that's most of them. Aside from secular and tragic, the only other genre of Christian Christmas movie I could find was just straight up retellings of Bible stories, and I didn't want to do one of those either because they're also extremely boring, but I did want to point out one that I found because it stars a guy who literally cast himself as God in a previous movie I discussed, and in it, he plays Jesus. I'm starting to suspect that this is a fetish for him at this point. But yeah, I thought it over and decided I should just power through one of the sad ones. And eventually I settled on something called Lucy Shimmers and the Prince of Peace. Mostly because the title sounded silly. Don't let that fool you though. This thing is soul crushing. Pretty much from the first line.
Who's to say what's fair or not fair? Why the good die young and others live long lives. Many believe that there's a higher power at work, aware of our every thought, joy, and sorrow. Yet, others believe that life ends at the grave. But in there lays the beauty of it all. We get to choose.
Merry Christmas, everyone! To be fair, it does try to cheer things up by tacking on that part about you getting to choose, but that part also feels a little bit hollow to me because I don't really think that the movie actually believes it. I actually feel very confident that it doesn't think that people get to choose whether there's life after death, and I say that because the person currently talking is dead. He's the recently deceased grandfather of the titular Lucy Shimmers, and he's come down from heaven so he can creepily stare at his granddaughter while she plays with her dad.
You're the princess, but I'm gonna win. Yeah. You okay? What do you see?
Grandpa.
Where? I don't see anybody.
Grandpa Jackson. I can see him.
My dad? Honey, he died last summer. He's in heaven. You know that.
Honey, we talked about this. When Grandpa died, he turned into an undead bird monster and went to live in the clouds. The idea that he'd come back down to spend some time with his family doesn't make any sense. We'll soon learn that the dad is actually deeply religious, and it's like, what the hell good is your faith if not for this exact moment? I don't really know what I believe happens to us after we die, but if my child ever tells me that they're looking at the ghost of my parent, I'm accepting that shit without question, because that is just about the most comforting thing I could ever hope to hear. Even if it goes against everything I believe, I would force myself to believe it. Lucy coughs, and her father brings her inside, where her mother takes her temperature and tells her that she has a fever. They say that they're going to take her to see a doctor in the morning, and then they send her up to bed, where she does a little bit of arts and crafts.
What you doing?
Just working on my book.
Oh, who you drawing?
A picture of Jesus.
Oh, you know they also call him the Prince of Peace?
Do they? I feel like I've heard a lot of nicknames for Jesus in my life, but that one's new. I googled it just to make sure I wasn't being stupid, and it is apparently a name that's used in the Bible, but seeing as this very small movie is also one of the first results when you search it, I gotta imagine that it's not used very much. That line feels very shoehorned into me, and it kind of makes me think that they added it just so that they could use it for the title, which is very funny to me. Like, it kind of suggests that the people making this were like, I'm gonna have to force some stuff to make it work, but I have the perfect name for our movie. Lucy Shimmers and the Prince of Peace. Also, just gonna point this out now because it's the first time it happens. This girl draws Jesus a lot. She kind of treats him like he's her OC. And Jesus isn't the only person she's drawing. She tells her dad that the other character in her book is a sad man that she sees in her dreams, and surprise, surprise, it's not long before we learn that that sad man is actually a real person who exists.
Who else are you drawing?
There's a sad man in my book.
Oh,
So me and Jesus will be his friend.
yeah? Well, I'm sure that will make him really happy.
And this is another thing that's weird to me about Christians, because Lucy's various visions are treated like these tiny miracles, but I feel like the exact people watching this movie and cheering her on might very easily see these same abilities under different circumstances and deem them satanic. And with good reason. She's talking to dead people, having visions in her dreams. Put me in a Puritan village with enough of a mob mentality, and it probably wouldn't take very long to convince me to burn Lucy Shimmers at the stake. But yeah, the sad man is real, so from there we cut over to the hospital wing of a prison to meet him. I guess that the bedroom of a sick little girl was just too cheery of a setting for this Christmas movie.
His kidneys are failing. There's nothing more we can do for him here.
What do you suggest?
He needs to be transferred to another hospital and get on dialysis right away. He'll be put on a transplant list. He needs a new kidney, or he won't make it.
I can hear you.
Okay, this doctor really needs to work on his bedside manner. Like, I don't care if you're a prisoner or the president. Nobody should find out that their kidneys are failing from somebody stage whispering 4 feet away from their face. And what's worse is that the person the doctor is telling his diagnosis to is a priest, which feels wrong because the patient does not seem to be particularly religious.
You really should read the Bible. Get a true second chance. You can have mine. Take it.
It's not for me, Pastor. I'm sure I'm getting exactly what I deserve.
If you're getting what you deserve, I know you believe in God. He can make miracles in the most unforgiving places.
I don't know what the actual laws are with prisons, but no part of what's happening right now seems legal. Also, him thinking that he deserves to die for what he did does not prove that he believes in God. If feeling guilty was a sign that you're secretly Christian, then That would make me the fucking Pope. Variations on this argument pop up a lot in these sorts of movies, and every time I hear one, it makes me think that whoever would believe such a thing is an absolutely horrendous person. Like, for me personally, the reason I'm not out there murdering people right now isn't because I'm worried that some dude in the sky will be mad at me if I do. It's because I have an innate sense of right and wrong. And also because my upper body strength isn't great, and I know that most of my potential victims would probably be able to overpower me if I ever tried. It's mostly that first thing though, and so when people say shit like what the pastor just said, it leads me to believe that they don't have that, and were it not for their fear of God, they would be out there committing all sorts of atrocities. Although I guess a lot of them are out there committing all sorts of atrocities because of their fear of God. So. And like, for the record, that's not to suggest that this prisoner committed atrocities. We actually don't know what he's in for. Which honestly does make this movie kind of hard to gauge at certain points. Unsurprisingly, a lot of the plot is about his redemption, so since we don't really know what he's being redeemed for, we can't really know how much we actually forgive him. If he stole a loaf of bread to feed his family, then I forgive him already, and frankly, the fact that he thinks he deserves to die of kidney failure feels a little bit extreme. That said though, if he did something a lot worse, like a murder or an assault, then I think he actually needs to do a lot more soul searching than what we see here. Also, certain scenes that I'll talk about a little later that already give me the heebie-jeebies start to feel way creepier. His situation is dire enough that he ends up getting transferred to an actual hospital for treatment, which is surprising because from what we see, this particular prison is not all that kind to its prisoners.
What are you staring at? A dead man. No. Well, hopefully it's more sooner than later.
And he's not the only person going to the hospital, because lest you forget, Lucy is also sick.
Is your teddy sick? Does she need a checkup?
Yeah, she's breathing a little bit hard, a little bit.
Okay, let me check her out.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
She just got sick by the fan. All the ants are in her bones. They're biting her right now. She hasn't eaten a lot of fluids and a lot of water. She didn't take a lot of water. A little bit.
As a general rule of thumb, I don't like to say anything negative about children's performances in these videos, but that said, what the fuck was that? Like, I almost get the sense that they had that actress ad-lib that line, which is weird because I don't think that she's fully mastered English yet. But yeah, the doctor says that Lucy has pneumonia, and as I'm sure a lot of you have already guessed, the bulk of this movie is about her being at the hospital at the same time as the prisoner, and the two of them forming an unlikely friendship. It takes a surprisingly long time to get there though. Lucy and the prisoner don't officially cross paths until the 30-minute mark, but seeing as everything that happens until then is just watching a child get sicker and sicker, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit.
Stop.
Keep moving.
See, Daddy? That's the Sandman I was telling you about in my dreams. I told you he needs help.
That's nice, honey. You're a really good artist. But I don't think that's him.
I don't know, I think it looks a lot like him.
Me too.
Actually, I'm going to go with the dad on this one. That was just a stick figure with a beard. The resemblance is far from uncanny. Also, prisoners are people, and they deserve our respect, but that said, if I were these parents and I were dropping my daughter off for an extended stay, I do not think I would react that casually if I saw someone in an orange jumpsuit being wheeled around. Granted, the father does at the very least make a note of it.
I was just wondering what the story was with the guy that was handcuffed to his wheelchair.
Oh, he's a prisoner. He's here because his kidneys are failing.
Why isn't he in a prison hospital?
Because they don't have the staff or required medical equipment. He's on a transplant list.
Okay. Should I be concerned?
No, he's guarded 24 hours a day. You have nothing to be worried about. He's very sick. He can barely walk.
But even still, I feel like he has a lot less questions about the whole situation than I would have. One thing he doesn't seem interested in is what the guy's in prison for, and I personally feel like that is very relevant information. I don't care how sickly he is or how many guards are standing outside his door. I would not want to risk having my daughter sleeping 2 doors down from the East Tulsa baby napper. And it would be one thing if the hospital just told him to deal with it because what is he gonna do? But they're actually weirdly accommodating.
But we can find you another room on another floor when something opens up if you'd like. Right now, we're just all filled up.
No, it's okay. I was just curious. Thank you.
No problem. I'm here if you need me.
Maybe just put your name on a waiting list just to be safe? And this is something that actually kind of irked me about this movie. The hospital is depicted as the kindest, most welcoming place ever in a way that feels fairly unrealistic to me. There's one part in particular that really stood out in my mind.
Why is everybody so sad?
Yeah, why is everybody so sad? I have strawberry ice cream.
And it's there's not a chance in hell that everyone in that room is getting their own bowl. Unless insurance is covering it, that's $600 worth of ice cream. Honestly, the mere fact that Lucy has a room of her own makes this movie feel like a fairy tale, and normally that wouldn't bother me. That said though, given that a large part of the film's audience also probably voted for people who are actively trying to keep our healthcare system broken, it does kind of piss me off. I don't think that they should get to pretend like things are okay for the sake of this movie. They should have to see what they've done. Still, though it depicts healthcare in a very kind light, there is actually one broken American system that this movie acknowledges, because Lucy Shimmers in The Prince of Peace fucking hates cops.
What are you hiding? Contraband is not allowed. Don't make me ask you again. What's in your pocket? Oh, isn't that cute? Is this your family? No, too bad you're not gonna ever see him again, but I don't see a problem with you keeping it.
Okay, I get why he's sad now. And Lucy is here to fix all that. That's actually kind of the point of the movie. She's meant to be this beacon of light that shines in a dark place. And I'm just now getting why her last name is Shimmers. I feel like if I were to sum up this movie in one moment, it would be this.
This is fun.
Things may be dire, but with the help of optimism and Jesus, Lucy is going to show everyone that everything is going to be okay. I think a good example of what a lot of this movie is when Lucy sneaks out of her room on the first night in order to go talk to the sad man, and along the way, she meets a janitor.
Well, hi there.
My name is Lucy Shimmers. I'm 5 years old. What's your name?
Bart, my name is Bart.
Are you sad?
I lost my wife just recently, and it makes me sad sometimes.
And it's like, damn, Bart must not be doing so great if he just spilled his guts to a 5-year-old like that. But even still, that doesn't mean that Lucy isn't able to fix everything just by being her precocious little self.
Don't worry, Jesus loves you.
I'll try to remember that. Thank you.
I will draw a picture for you and give it to you tomorrow. Bye, Bart.
Thank you.
And like, I don't know, maybe I'm just being too harsh on this movie because I guess that the idea that a sweet little girl would lift your spirits isn't the craziest thing in the world, but something about it just isn't working for me. Honestly, I think the disconnect might just be that Lucy's approach is obviously very Jesus-centric, and for me personally, there is nothing more sinister than an overly religious child. The movie thinks that this scene is Lucy popping out of her bedroom and brightening Bart's day by delivering the good news, but what I see when I watch it is a man working the night shift alone when a mysterious child appears out of nowhere. And as far as I'm concerned, Jesus loves you is right up there with come play with us on the list of things that I would not want to hear in that situation. And things only get creepier from there because Lucy takes 2 steps and starts doing this.
Hi, Grandpa.
Hi, Princess.
I don't know why Bart doesn't seem to care that Lucy is suddenly talking to nobody, but he is a braver man than I. And yeah, lest you forget, there are ghosts in this movie. Lucy's grandpa hovers around her at all times, and it's supposed to be nice, like he's her guardian angel, but well, that's not really how it feels to me. There's one scene in particular where Lucy's father is having a moment, and the grandpa is there with him as a way to show that he's not alone, but it doesn't really read as comforting in the way that I think the movie hoped that it would. I don't know if it's the makeup or the lighting, but something about this man's face is extremely ghoulish to me, and because of that, having him silently looming over the background of every scene makes this movie feel slightly less Christmassy. Still, ghoulish or not, Lucy's grandpa does serve a narrative purpose. Kinda. As you'll remember, the prisoner's room is being guarded, so he uses his angel magic to create a distraction so that Lucy can slip inside.
Are you ready?
Yep.
All right. Now, you're going to have to sneak past that guard over there to get into the room. So we're going to go down by the door, and on the count of 3, I'm going to turn on the fire alarm. Are you ready?
Yep.
Let's go.
That said, though, I'm not entirely sure how necessary any of that actually was, because I feel like even with the alarm going off, the guard probably should have seen her going in. Lucy Shimmers is not exactly what you would call a master spy.
One, 2, 3.
I feel like he probably should have noticed that. She's standing a foot away from his face, and she snuck up on him like a cartoon. This dude must have terrible peripheral vision. Also, strange to me that they would go with a noise-based distraction when the guy already has headphones in. Whatever though, the guard is terrible and Lucy slips by him so she can finally have a conversation with the prisoner.
What do you want?
It's to be friends.
You don't want to be my friend.
Sure do. You're sad. I saw you in my dream.
I'm sure it wasn't me.
Yes, it was. I saw you. Jesus showed me your face.
And like everyone else in this movie, I feel like the prisoner is being way too casual about this whole situation because, well, it's weird. It's the middle of the night and a 5-year-old has somehow snuck past an armed guard in order to stand by this guy's bedside and tell him that she saw him in her dreams. If I were in this guy's position, I feel like best case scenario, I think I was hallucinating from one of my meds right now. More likely though, I think I'd probably assume that things had taken a turn for the worse and Lucy was there to usher me into the afterlife. And this would only be bolstered by the fact that a lot of the cute stuff that Lucy says in this movie could very easily be read as menacing depending on how you interpret it.
You're the little girl I saw in the hallway earlier.
Yep, sure was me. I'm writing a book, and you're in it.
Is it a death note? At the very least, I would press a call button and ask a nurse, like, you see her too, right? But he doesn't do that. Instead, he just kind of tells Lucy to beat it, and she actually does listen to him, but not before handing him a Bible and telling him that she'll be back tomorrow to read it together. Before she can fully escape back to her room, though, the alarm is fixed and the guard goes back to his post.
What do you know? You just leave me alone and go back to where you came from.
Okay. Tomorrow.
You won't. You're not coming back.
Yes, I will.
Who are you talking to?
Alright, not really sure why the grandpa ghost didn't just keep setting off the alarm until Lucy was out of there, but whatever. I guess he just wanted to build some tension for the audience. Although actually, if that was his goal, then it wasn't really successful, because Lucy gives the guard the slip pretty easily.
I heard talking. You're losing it, man. Talking to yourself. Not another word out of you.
This man is a terrible guard. Not only was Lucy clomping around behind him like a damn moose, but he also very clearly heard her voice, so I feel like he should realize that the prisoner wasn't just talking to himself. Although that said, if he is going to go with the talking to himself theory, then I think that his reaction is weird, because for him to believe that, it would mean that he also believes that the prisoner was in there alone putting on different voices, being all like, "I'm Lucy Shimmers! I saw you in my dreams! Scram, kid!" And if that's the case, then he's way too cool with it. I guess I can't speak for everyone, but I know that for me personally, if I were alone in a hospital at night guarding a large convict and he started having a conversation with himself in a very convincing voice as his alter ego, a 5-year-old girl named Lucy Shimmers, I would at the very least be taken aback, but this guard doesn't really give it a second thought. After Lucy leaves, her condition worsens, and again, I'm just gonna skip past most of this because watching a child get sicker is depressing, and I worry it will bring down the vibe of my video. Honestly, the only reason I bring it up at all is because her lungs get bad enough that she needs to be connected to oxygen, so the next time I show her to you, she's gonna have tubes in her nose, and yeah, that's why. La 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 la.
Stop, please, Daddy. Hi.
Hi.
I'm sick. I got bacterial ammonia. What's wrong with you?
Okay, weird to me that this father would just stop so that his 5-year-old could have a conversation with a strange adult. And actually weirder that the person wheeling the prisoner around did too, given how poorly he's been treated by the guards when he's just sitting in bed minding his own business. It feels odd that when it came time for him to have a conversation with a little girl, they've decided to be totally accommodating. My 2 cents, I don't think that either one of them should have stopped. Like, I get that it's the point of the movie, but I honestly don't think that these two people should be talking at all. And again, it's not because he's currently incarcerated. You're not automatically a dangerous person just because some judge somewhere decided to send you away. I mean, this guy might be because we don't know what he did, but he also might not be. That said, though, he's still a grown-up going through some very grown-up situations, and I feel like Lucy shouldn't have those put on her.
My kidneys don't work. I need new ones.
Where do you get them from?
Someone has to give me one, or I'm not gonna live very long.
Granted, I'm not an expert on children, but I feel like every word of that sentence was way above Lucy's pay grade as a 5-year-old. And hearing that, she reacts as a 5-year-old would, by offering to give the prisoner one of her own kidneys, which, like, I guess it's heartwarming that she says that, but it's also kind of upsetting that she'd ever be in a position to say that. Maybe it's just because I'm one of those coddled millennial snowflakes you read about, but I really think that no kid should have to think about the concept of organ donation until at least their 12th birthday. Still, despite my objections, this relationship continues to grow. So later that night, Lucy sneaks out again with the help of her grandpa ghost, and on the way there, she once again runs into Bart the night janitor.
Hi, Bart.
Hey there, Lucy. How are you doing tonight?
Good. Do you see my grandpa?
Terrifying. Also, you'll notice that Bart is in the same place that he was the night before, and that's actually the only place that we ever see him. He's in multiple scenes, and never once does he move from that exact spot. And while I assume that that's because they need Lucy to run into him on the way to the prisoner's room, and there's only so many places that can happen, it does kind of make it seem like this man spends his entire workday mopping one single square foot of the hospital floor over and over again.
Here's a picture I drew for you. It's a picture of Jesus. Don't worry, you'll see your wife again.
Thank you. I love it.
You're welcome, Bart. Hi, Bart.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll say it. Lucy's whole Christian child shtick has gotten way out of hand. Like, for one thing, telling someone that they'll see their dead wife again does sound a bit like a threat. More than that, though, it's honestly a bit rude. Like, she just handed him a drawing of his wife playing with Jesus in the afterlife, and while he does seem to appreciate it, had he not been so on board, seeing that could have really hurt him. And like, obviously, I don't blame Lucy, because she's just a kid and she means well. Also, she's not real, but that said, I do blame the movie, because it's framing her going up to random strangers and inserting Jesus in their business as a good thing, and I really don't think that it is. I think that this stuff should be personal, which means that you should keep it to yourself regardless of how old you are. Just like you wouldn't want me going up to your kid and telling them that God's not real, I don't want your kid coming up to me and telling me that he is. Lucy is relentless though, so she breaks into the prisoner's room and forces him to read her Bible stories.
I told you I'll come back.
Yes, you did. Kept your word.
Never told you your name, so we're still strangers.
Oh, sorry. Edgar.
Alright, so apparently his name is Edgar. I did not realize that. This movie is very hard to pay close attention to. And yeah, I guess because Lucy offered him her kidney earlier, he's a lot softer to her this time around. And the movie wants us to view their unlikely friendship as sweet and heartwarming, and it is, but it also makes me deeply uncomfortable. I feel like it was around here where things started to cross the line for me.
That's a cool name. Is your tummy better?
It's not my tummy. It's my kidneys. They're behind my tummy, sort of.
Oh, I'm sick in my chest where I breathe.
Sorry to hear that.
That's okay. I think we both will get better.
I sure hope you do.
Can I sit with you?
I know it's all innocent. I don't think anything bad is going to happen, but that said, I don't really think there's ever a situation where a child should sit in bed with an adult they don't really know unless their parents are aware of it. Just as a rule, this dude should have asked Lucy to pull up a chair instead. But yeah, the two of them get to talking, and Lucy finds the ripped up photo.
Why is it all torn in half?
The guard out there did it.
I don't like him very much.
Alright, Lucy Shimmers said ACAB.
Is this your family?
Used to be. I lost them.
Maybe you should try finding them.
I did some very bad things. And they don't want to talk to me anymore.
Seriously, what the fuck did this guy do? Them not telling us feels intentional, and it's actually starting to annoy me in a way that only a special type of Christian media can. I feel like movies like this are meant to be like Christianity porn. You turn it on, and you get to see these perfect Christian specimens in situations most normal people could only dream of, and all the while you get to sit back and relax and stroke your own sense of moral superiority. I feel like people are supposed to watch this and think well, I agree with Lucy Shimmers, so that must mean I'm a good person like she is, and I feel like that's why the filmmakers never make what Edgar did explicit, because they know that a lot of them aren't. Forgiveness is not as easy as this movie wants it to seem, so if it were to actually test the viewer's capacity for it by giving them something specific to contemplate, they probably wouldn't enjoy it in quite the same way. And of course, it doesn't help matters that a large portion of this movie's audience is a lot judgier than they would personally like to admit to themselves. Despite being devoted to the religion that gave us "Let he who is without sin cast the first stone," I feel like there are a lot of things that Edgar could have done that would make a large chunk of this film's target demographic look at him and think good, I'm glad his kidneys are failing. Frankly, he doesn't even need to have done anything in a lot of cases. At one point, I started to wonder how this movie would have played if everything was the exact same, except Edgar was transgender, because while I assume based on everything I know about her that Lucy Shimmers would probably say trans rights, I don't think that the audience would agree, and because of that, they'd probably view things a lot differently. I certainly wouldn't be as cool with her sitting in bed with him, that's for damn sure.
Where's your Bible?
It's right here. What?
I want you to read it to me so you can learn about Jesus. My favorite story is Matthew chapter 2.
I said earlier that overly religious children creep me out, and watching that clip, I think I realized why. Christian shit is just so not for kids, so whenever one of them is super into it, something feels off. Like, we get a taste of Lucy's favorite story, and it's just so boring and dry that I truly can't fathom a world where a 5-year-old would be into it when Frozen is readily available.
You ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judah, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him. When Herod the king had heard these things, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and the scribes of the people together, he demanded of them where the Messiah should be born.
Do you know that's a name for Jesus?
I do now.
Wait, did you not before? Unlike Prince of Peace, that one actually is pretty common. I feel like you probably should have heard it at some point. Hearing him read that story was the first time in several scenes that I remember that this is supposed to be a Christmas movie, because this is about as Christmassy as things ever get. And even though they're literally recounting the birth of Jesus right now, it's still not particularly Christmassy. Like, as far as the nativity story is concerned, I feel like this is probably the least festive thing they could have chosen. The passage that Edgar reads is mostly just boring exposition, but as Matthew chapter 2 goes on, it gets into Herod ordering the slaughter of babies in an effort to kill Jesus, so it feels weird that that's what the movie chose to highlight. Also, kind of fucked up that Lucy said it was her favorite story. That's pretty twisted for a 5-year-old. Having finally broken through to Edgar, Lucy starts visiting him every night to read the Bible. And this is mostly shown through a montage, which is honestly kind of funny to me because it feels like Lucy and Edgar bonding over the Bible is what the bulk of the movie should have been, but really it only lasts for about 3 minutes. Which, granted, is an extraordinarily long time for a montage, but still. We do hear snippets of readings here and there, but most of the audio in this scene is a Christian pop song about people deserving a second chance that I will not be playing for you because I don't want this video to get flagged. They speed through Edgar's spiritual awakening so quickly that it kind of feels like the people making this Christian movie thought like, nah, nobody's gonna want to hear that much Bible. Let's use that time for something people will actually enjoy, you know? Like more scenes of a little girl coughing. Along with growing her relationship with Edgar, the montage also serves to show the audience how many lives Lucy impacted just by being herself. Which is 4, apparently. Aside from Edgar, Lucy also touches the life of Bart, who's still standing in the same spot as always, some dying woman she talks to a couple of times, and my personal favorite, a sick child who she interacts with once in order to walk up to him and hand him a drawing of Jesus with the words, "This is Jesus," written on it. I guess that it's also implied that during the montage, Lucy is praying with Edgar for his wife and daughter to come see him, because the second it's over, they do. Kind of out of nowhere, actually.
Are you girls ready?
Nervous. Gianna hasn't seen her dad in a really long time.
It'll be a wonderful surprise. He doesn't know you're coming.
I think the implication here is supposed to be that God answered Edgar's prayers, which, while I'm happy for him, there is something kind of fucked up to me about that message. And to be clear, I'm not against the idea of prayer. I think that if talking to God helps you navigate the world and works for you, that's great, and you should by all means do it. Just don't go around telling other people that it'll definitely work for them too, because that is not always the case. I kind of feel about prayer the same way I feel about herbal supplements. I think people should do whatever they want to make themselves feel good, but the second you start selling something, you need to be able to back up whatever claims you make. The way this movie portrays it makes it seem like if you pray hard enough for what you want, it'll just happen. And I don't know, maybe that is how it works sometimes, but it's definitely not how it works all the time. So implying that it is feels kind of mean. Whatever though, prayer does work for Edgar, and his family comes and visits him, and everything is nice. For now. After that family reunion, we head over to Lucy's room, where our plucky protagonist is getting into the spirit of the season by doing a little gift giving.
Here's my Christmas present for Edgar. I wrote it down.
I want to give my friend Edgar one of my kidneys. You're so sweet and loving, Lucy. You truly are one of a kind, but this isn't something I can do without your parents' permission.
Please, Daddy.
Absolutely fucking not. Look, I think that organ donation is a wonderful thing, and there are very few situations where I would ever try to argue against it, but this is definitely one of them. She is a 5-year-old who currently needs the help of an oxygen tank to breathe. She should not be introducing elective surgery into her life right now. Especially because there's probably something deeper going on with Lucy. Something about the idea that her pneumonia wasn't responding to treatment felt weird to me, so I asked my brother, who's a doctor, about it, and he said, yeah, if that's the case, then that's probably a sign of some more serious underlying issue. I don't know what that issue is exactly, but I feel like it would probably preclude this child from organ donation, both because it would make it that much riskier, and because I would imagine that a hospital would want to fully diagnose all pre-existing conditions a person may have before they go cutting into them. Also, I'm sure right now a lot of you are wondering, can a child's kidneys even function properly in an adult? And don't worry, the movie does not hesitate to answer that question.
Can a child's kidneys even function properly in an adult?
Yes, it's been done successfully many times, and she has the right blood type.
I looked it up to make sure this movie wasn't just pulling stuff out of its butt, and as it turns out, Lucy is the exact age when a child becomes a viable donor, which, looking back, does make the fact that the screenwriters chose to have her introduce herself by saying, "My name is Lucy Shimmers, I'm 5 years old," feel a little bit more sinister.
Please, Daddy.
Okay, honey. Okay, we'll think about it.
Pinky promise?
Pinky promise.
Are you fucking kidding me right now? I get that you're touched by your daughter's generosity, dude, but part of being a parent is setting boundaries, and one of those boundaries should absolutely be that your sickly 5-year-old can't harvest herself for organs to save the life of an adult man that she met 3 weeks ago. And this, again, is why I think that Lucy just shouldn't continue her relationship with Edgar. It's a lot more than she's equipped to deal with at her age. I know it sounds kinda harsh, but I really feel like right now the dad needs to put his foot down and make sure she doesn't keep seeing him. Instead, he unhooks her from her oxygen tubes and carries her into his bedroom. Lucy finishes her book and has her dad take her down the hall so that she can give it to Edgar, despite the fact that, again, Edgar's room is currently being guarded by a police officer.
Papa, it's right there. He's going to make the alarm go on. Do you see him?
Jen.
Okay, I could kind of buy that the whole alarm thing would work for Lucy because she's like 3 feet tall, but that is a grown-ass man standing a foot away from the guard's face holding a child who is openly talking about their plan. I feel like they would probably get caught. They don't, though. They break in and give Edgar the book, and then they leave pretty quickly because Lucy is having trouble breathing. And rather than sprinting back to his daughter's oxygen tank like a normal person, he instead decides to stop along the way and allow her to do this.
Stop,
Does
Daddy.
anything like that, but we do have some therapists that we could refer you to.
I don't need therapy.
Well, maybe you just need to relax a little bit, sit down, get some water in you, eat some fruit.
This man is a terrible father. Like, obviously, Lucy Shimmers is always going to say fuck the police. It's who she is. But when she does it, he should at least be trying to stop her because I'm pretty sure she just committed a felony. And even if he has no respect for the law, just like his daughter, he should at least stop her for Edgar's sake because right now, Lucy is putting him in a very compromising situation.
Here's our key.
What's this for?
Your handcuffs.
He's a prisoner who just reconciled with his family. It very much seems like he's just trying to keep his head low and serve out the rest of his sentence, so those keys are probably the last thing in the world he wants right now. Not only would he probably get extra time added to his sentence if and when the guard finds them in his bed, but they also don't really do him any good because lest you forget, he's on dialysis right now and can't really move on his own. He takes them though, for some reason, and then when he's alone, he cracks open Lucy's book.
Lucy Shimmers and the Prince of Peace.
Hey! She said the title.
Mom and Dad and I had a dream. Of a sad man.
Alright, I get that she's 5, but I feel like this thing should not have taken her as long as it did. She's been writing it since before she entered the hospital, which would have been a month ago at this point. Still, even though the book is terrible, it does at the very least have a pretty good twist.
Jesus loves everybody. Jesus gave you his love. I want to give you my kidney.
Okay, before I say anything else, I just want everyone to take another look at that picture because to illustrate giving her kidney, she has literally drawn herself handing a kidney over to Edgar, which is very funny to me. It also makes me wonder how she knows what kidneys look like because earlier she had never heard of them before. I'm honestly starting to suspect that that doctor who knew Lucy's blood type off the top of her head has been whispering in her ear to try and get her interested in organ donation. As far as the actual kidney donation is concerned, I was a little bit confused by this part, because the last thing we heard on the matter was the father saying he would consider it. And in the timeline of the movie, that was like 6 hours ago at the most. Lucy giving this book to Edgar means one of two things. Either Lucy's parents did not give much thought before agreeing to donate one of their daughter's organs, which would honestly line up with what I know about their parenting style. Or they haven't decided anything yet, and they weren't paying enough attention to what she was doing to stop her before she promised one of her kidneys to someone, which, if that's the case, then it's not fair that they're getting Edgar's hopes up like that. Although that said, Edgar is getting his hopes up a lot more right now than he probably should given the circumstances. Like, the way he's acting, it kind of seems like he views this collection of crude children's drawings as a legally binding contract.
So you could be with your family. Now it's your turn to draw.
I guess maybe he's just touched that Lucy would even think to offer, but I don't know. I don't think that's the case. The way it's written, the book puts a lot of emphasis on Edgar's future, and it seems like that's what he's reacting to in a way that leads me to believe that he's definitely planning on taking this kidney. Which, I couldn't even begin to fathom what he's going through right now, so I'm not gonna say that he shouldn't take it, but I do feel like he should put up a token show of resistance. At a minimum, I think you should treat accepting a 5-year-old's kidney the same way you'd treat it if someone offered to pick up the check. Oh, no, I can't accept that. Are you sure? Although I guess it doesn't really matter what Edgar does, he's getting this kidney one way or another because, as it turns out, Lucy Shimmers fucking dies. The second Edgar finishes the book, the movie smash cuts to a scene of Lucy flatlining that is so brutal that I'm not going to show you any of it. Her mom is watching, her dad is watching, her ghost grandpa is watching, and Edgar uses the key she gave him to escape from his bed, so he's watching too. And for those of you curious, yes, this is all happening on Christmas morning. And yeah, that's pretty much the movie. They give the dead little girl's kidney to Edgar, who uses it to start a new life with his family, and every year on Christmas, they remember Lucy by reading the book she wrote for him. As for Lucy's family, they just have another kid. The movie ends with the father playing outside with his new son, while Ghost Grandpa and Lucy watch on, only this time, the father can see them. And based on everyone else who was able to see the grandpa, I think that means that the father is about to die soon too, but whatever. I'm pretty sure the movie sees this as a hopeful ending. I, however, view things a little bit differently. I honestly can't think of a more depressing film. I watched this with my friends for the express purpose of laughing at it, and by the time the credits rolled, at least 2 of us were crying full tears. And that's weird, because I feel like Christmas movies should be happy. I know in reality it's a sad time for a lot of people, but on paper it's supposed to be about joy and togetherness and all that other gay shit. You would think that Christians would want to do everything they could to make the crown jewel of their entire goddamn year look as shiny as possible. So the fact that all the movies they make about it are about loss and death and disease feels kind of odd. Although that said, the more I think about it, the more I think I get why that is. After making a few critiques of these sorts of movies, I've come to realize that the people I'm critiquing aren't the ones watching them, they're the ones making them. Christian movies exist as an art form on the intersection of religion and capitalism. Their goal isn't so much to express a genuine Christian message as it is to be sold to an audience. And when you think about them like that, you realize that they run into a lot of the same problems as other capitalist pursuits. The goal of a business is to sell, 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 and when you sell enough that people don't need anything else, you figure out a way to sell them even more. Outside of the birth of Jesus, that's pretty much what Christmas is all about now. And what makes Christian movies particularly insidious in this regard is what exactly they're selling. Honestly, I feel like the movie says it best when it explains its titular line.
Who are you drawing?
A picture of Jesus.
Oh. You know they also call him the Prince of Peace?
Yeah, 'cause he brings peace in our hearts.
That's right.
I feel like the goal of a lot of religion is to give people a sense of comfort by giving them something to believe in. And so it makes sense why Christian filmmakers would have to whip out the big, depressing guns this time of year. They think that Christmas gives a lot of people the feeling they're looking for when they sit down to watch movies like this. And so how do you sell comfort to someone who doesn't need comforting? You devastate the shit out of them. And really, I think that's why these movies are so goddamn sad. The people making them are worried that if people let themselves be happy for even one goddamn second, they won't need Jesus to bring peace to their hearts anymore, and if that happens, then there goes their customer base. Whether it's in business or religion or whatever, I feel like a lot of what's wrong with the world right now is that people aren't ever allowed to just be content. We're always made to feel like there's more, more things we could own, more shit we could be doing, more reasons we should be upset. And the second any of us manage to get to a point where that's not the case, there are a bunch of people trying to rile you up again because they also want more. Honestly, I feel like that's why this time of year is so important, because living like that gets fucking exhausting and we all need a break. The holidays have been twisted in all sorts of ways by all sorts of people to the point that what they are feels complicated a lot of the time. That said though, I think that what they should be is actually pretty simple. A time when we can drown out all those outside voices and get together with the people we love and let ourselves feel whatever amount of peace we can manage. Because regardless of who you are or what you believe in, we all need something like that. So yeah, Merry Christmas everybody. If you can find a way to enjoy it, I really hope that you do. So yeah, that's my video. Please like and subscribe and share and comment, and if for some reason you want to get me a Christmas present, you could subscribe to my Patreon. Huh? Huh? I don't expect anyone to get me a Christmas present. But again, if you wanted to, you can pay me, which speaking of, I got some super thanks, which I would like to super thanks back. Thank you to Boxo Kittens 0909, Benny Lemon 5123, Unexpected Ancient Bear, that one's fun, Lori Wild 3977, Jez the Null 3467, and Wilder Wisdom. I appreciate you all. All of you, not just the ones who, I was saying I appreciate the ones who I just read, but I do appreciate you all. I should start scripting these end parts. I'm not good when I just let myself talk. Whatever, that's the episode. Just kidding, that's not the episode. As the real fans know, we still have the part where I pose for a thumbnail while my name scroll, and then I add like 10 more minutes to the runtime of my video and make less people click on it as a result. So for this one, I was thinking I would be sad, but like not like super sad, just kind of like regular sad. Like, I'm reacting to the fact that a 5-year-old girl dies and is then harvested for organs in this Christmas movie. So like, oh my god. Honestly, you know what would have been really good is, I don't know where my mascara went, but I had mascara and a tear stick from when I did America's Next Top Model photo shoots. I did a America's Next Top Model photo shoot. But yeah, that's lost to time, I guess. Whatever. Is this recording the good audio? What? Oh, it is. Okay, good. So I guess like, what? Lucy? Lucy, are you gonna be okay? I expect this photo to turn out great. I am filming this right after Thanksgiving, so I'm not in peak form. Lucy? What? Lucy? Lucy, are you gonna be okay? I just heard my dog get off the couch, and I probably don't have much longer to record. He's about to start barking, I bet. Oh, do you think he heard me crying and was upset? I doubt it. I once pretended to be dead in front of him, and he did not care. 1 second. Let's see why. Alright, he's not gonna let me record much longer. I'm ending it. Shush. Thanks for watching, guys. Goodbye.